Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. And today I'm discussing Wind and Truth, Day 5, with my good buddy Andre, the Cosmere Consigliere.
I have still not watched The Godfather. I have no intention of watching The Godfather. So YouTube commenters, you can pipe down.
Brutal.
But we have been. There's a little bit of a hiatus as Sam was on his deathbed for a bit over the winter holidays. And he binge watched the closest thing we currently have to a Stormlight archive adaptation.
911.
Which is really a lot like the Knights Radiant when you think about it. The first responders of the LAFD, the LAPD, they're more like the Dustbringers, just burning everything down. But you got good people with a lot of traumatic backstories trying to help people.
Yeah, very traumatic backstories.
So it's that's the Stormlight archive adaptation.
Wait until you get Buck's tragic backstory. It's real bad. It's very sad.
That's like the last thing I watched, actually.
So we're here to talk about it's rough. We're here to talk about the Stormlight archive, and we are here specifically to talk about Day 5 of Wind and Truth. And I want to warn you all up front, this is full spoilers and nothing is off the table. So if Andre wants to get real deep and spoil Warbreaker, for example, we might not be warning you. So these videos are really for the people who are fully up to date and fully deep in. And I mean, Andre here has read the Cosmere in total like 3 times, right?
No, I've read Stormlight 1 to 4 3 times. I've read everything else once. I'm not.
I thought you reread everything else when I
no.
Or Pat.
I was going through the first time through a lot of that stuff, but no, I am not. I am not so sick that I've read the entire Cosmere 3 times in 5 years. But hey, we got a little bit of a hiatus coming up. Maybe I'll read some Mistborn. Though nothing hits for me like Stormlight does. Like, I enjoy the other books. I enjoy the interconnected nature. I don't need to watch Thor 2 again, right? Like, I know what happens.
The underground is good though. So
I enjoyed the experience the first time. It doesn't hit me in such a way that I'm like, I need to see that again. Whereas Stormlight, it's the gift that keeps on giving for me.
And Andre's now, since the last time we talked, I think Andre's read 2 Wheel of Time books. So
I did not finish the second one. I've not finished the second one yet.
Well, you're on the cusp of one of the best books in the series.
I don't know how far I am in anymore because I was listening on my computer in VLC, and then I think the bookmark is gone. So I don't know. I'm somewhere. Some chapter somewhere, like 2/3 of the way through the book, maybe.
So what we should probably do is start talking about Stormlight. So
yes, because we're only 40%, 42% of the way through Stormlight, and we got, though this is a short day, relatively speaking.
Yeah, Day 6 seems the shortest across the whole book.
Maybe
it's got the least chapters.
That'll be for next week.
Yeah, that'll be for next week.
Or next episode, whenever that goes up, whenever we talk next.
Yeah. So this episode is people are probably seeing this on the 12th of February. That's my current plan. I imagine we will have recorded at least one more before this goes out. So maybe I don't know when I'm going to release all of these. But I'm definitely having a great time doing them. So let's get right in with Day 5. So we started Day 5.
People really want to know. This is the time of the Shallan memes, Shallan memes on Reddit. This is just Krem posting is all Shallan all the time. It's everything is a Shallan meme. But yeah, we start off with Sam's favorite character.
Venli.
Controversial choice.
I'm the only Venli stan in the entire Stormlight fandom. It genuinely feels like that. I really like her character, and I really like one of the biggest things that I like about Venli is that she's very much like she's grown and changed and regrets the things that she's done, but we've seen that happen in real time, whereas we see a lot of it after the fact. So like Dalinar, for example, regrets the things that he's done, but he doesn't even remember the things that he's done for 3 books out of 5. Whereas Venli is extremely aware of all the horrible stuff that she has done, possibly under the coercion or manipulation of Odium, but you know.
I can't even remember that little Spren's name, who gets her to do all that stuff. He's the worst. But that's still a whole big mystery. Why does he look like a human? Why does he look like a human? We don't have an answer to that yet. Maybe we'll get it someday, in like 7 years. But I'm not a fan of Venli. Even in this book, I just don't think she's that. I think she's less interesting in this book. I think I like the singers. I like their culture, and I like where their story has been going, and kind of that dichotomy between the listeners and the singers. I like the listeners. The singers also have interesting things going on, but I like the listeners. But Venli is the least interesting one at this point. And she's the one we get the most. I'm still mad. Wanted a Shonai to still be here, but that is an interesting choice to have her be the, like, it was supposed to be a Shonai, but well, you got her killed, so it's on to you now.
Ulim is the name of the evil Spren.
Ulim.
Ulim is the envoy Spren.
Well, anyway, we get to see the Chasm Fiends just chilling. They're not these ravenous man-eating beasts, really. They were just like, hey, I thought this was like a competition. We were like boasting and who's stronger, it was a little boasting, and and then they were being hunted to extinction, but they didn't want to eat the human. They're like, that's not a lot of meat on there. It was just like, because they're actually intelligent and sentient, which you probably could have guessed by this stuff. Words of Radiance, there's the big thing in the ocean, the big what are they? All my Stormlight knowledge, it's been so long since we talked, is just like flooded out of my brain.
The big great shells. They're called great shells.
Yeah, great shells. There we go. The big great shell is like save Shalon, and like, there's a lot of similarities drawn between these things. So could have probably guessed from Words of Radiance on, like, these things are actually probably pretty smart. Which is, cool. And then to see them actually be smart and be able to communicate ideas and become actual characters in this book is really neat, which we kind of see over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things in this section is, like, obviously the return of Venli, great. It's quite interesting as well that the first chapter is no, it's not. I was going to say the first chapter is only a Venli POV, but it's not. There's also some Dalinar in there.
Yeah, there's some flashback. Well, I guess all of Dalinar's stuff for 90% of this book is flashback.
It's like Flash Sideways.
Well, it's traveling through time in the spiritual realm, but yes.
There's a lot of. I think that Venli's stuff is difficult in this book because she's not super important, and a lot of her role maybe could have been filled by somebody else, but we don't have anyone else to fill that role.
I mean, the closest one would be R'lain, but R'lain
is kind of busy.
Yeah, but you could have done that, right? Like you could have, Verlaine could have gone, oh, my people are alive, and then gone off and done something. But with the enlightened Spren versus there needs to be a path for the will shapers to like get back into the world, because the what Spren are those? The will shaper Spren, the Reachers, I think. No,
Reacher.
that's something else.
Timber is a Reacher.
Okay. Yeah, the Reacher Spren are like not wanting to deal with humans, right? So they need that. Venli needs to be like, hey, here's a bunch of people that aren't under Odium's influence that maybe you would want to bind to. And hey, Venli finally gets what she wanted the entire time, and her mother's mind is healed
that was good.
after bonding a Spren. Interesting idea there. Why did that Spren bond Venli's mother?
And interesting that it works to fix her dementia in the way that Adeline has mentioned, that people who have severe injuries, often they internalize it, and so they can't be healed, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then also, and there's all sorts of stuff about that, and we'll talk about it near the end of the book too. But there's something I don't think we mentioned way back in the first day, which is Espren following Dabbit around.
Yeah.
And they're like, someone asked Cal, like, do you think that'll fix his like mental state, or make him less, we don't know exactly what's going on with him. Is he autistic? Is he, he has a learning disability or whatever? And Kaladin says, well, I think he'll have a choice in that. But like, I don't know. It's an interesting idea, and I don't know if we'll have to see how that kind of goes down the line. Lopen being like, I never really got over losing my arm, and then regrowing his arm when he becomes, and then other people still having scars, Kaladin still having scars and stuff. That stuff is all very interesting, with the trauma and the healing and the dealing with that stuff.
Yeah, and I think, David's backstory is quite sad anyway.
Yes. But it's not like out of like, especially like, all these, a lot of terrible stuff happened to David, but it's also the most realistic of all the backstories, which makes it even more tragic in a lot of ways, because he's just like a dude who's left behind by society that doesn't, like our society often does and did for millennia, to these people who didn't fit into the rest of society, just for whatever developmental reason. And so with the dementia stuff and the losing her mind, for it to just like come back that quickly, and we don't really get, I would have liked maybe just a little like something from her mother's perspective to be like, what is that process like? Not that I think Sanderson could properly or realistically write something like that, because that's not something that could happen. None of these things are things that could happen, but at least Venli got what she wanted. Finally.
And I do like the idea of these like free singers, or free Pashendi, whatever we're calling them the singers, aren't we? I'm terrible at.
The singers are the ones under Odium's control. The listeners are the free ones.
Yeah. So the free listeners, kind of still being around, is quite good.
Yeah.
And obviously Venli being on the Shatter Plains connects her to the Shatter Plains offensive.
Oh, it is immediately like, they're going to ride in and they're going to save the day. They're going to do big cavalry rush with the Chasm Fiends and the Will Shapers, and they're going to be like doing all sorts of stuff. It's going to be so cool, and we'll see. but that is like immediate. I was like, oh, this is like they're there. Something is going to happen with this. It has to, as the stones are like, hey, there's something in the middle of the Shattered Plains. You gotta go check it out. And I like Leshwi and like her contingent of heavenly ones that are like, no, we don't want to be under Odium's influence anymore, and losing their void light and the ability to walk or not the ability to walk, the ability to fly. They're just, completely stuck. They're grounded.
I felt like Lesher, we didn't really get enough of her here. But then, like, I think there's so much going on the kind of three-armed offensive of Shattered Plains, Azamir, and the spiritual realm, and I guess add on Cal and Zeth and Shinovar, that I feel like we get kind of short shrift for the listeners in this book. Like, how many chapters has Andy even got? Like 5 or 6 across the whole book?
No idea.
But yeah, with the one thing we didn't mention is that the epigraphs for this book, which are this day, which is Hoy, a letter from
Endowment from Nalthus, from Warbreaker.
I never
said
know
at the beginning, Warbreaker spoilers in this episode.
Yeah. I never know which like planet is which and which shard is which. I don't. Who's the shard for Elantris? You'll know this.
They're dead. They were killed. They were killed by Odium. That is probably why the whole situation on Cell is what it is because the shards died in a conflict with Odium, and that's basically why the plot of Elantris happens.
Well, there you have it, everyone. So, yeah, that I'm real bad at remembering the shards. Like, I know the ones that are important, but the ones that we haven't met are the ones that I never remember.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
So we've got a lot of Dalinar stuff here as well.
We get like 70 years or so after the humans first arrive on Roshar, and they're stuck in their muddy camp, still in Shinovar, basically near where they came out. And we actually meet El here, Elodie, and he's saying like, "Hey, stuff is bad. People are fighting, like the singers, the singers and the humans are fighting like on the edges, and there's conflicts, so you need to stop it." And then also mentions that the singers are starting to pay attention to Odium, and he hopes to fight back against Odium.
So I did not catch that Elodie was El. I don't know whether that was obvious.
Name is El, but there was something I didn't catch it right away in this part, but there was later on a different day, it mentions one of the, I think maybe Jezrien mentions killing El, and he's like, he became there was something. He's like, oh, my friend, like I killed him, and I was like, oh, there was that singer he spoke to earlier, and I went back and was like, oh, Elodie. Like, of course, this is El.
Interesting. When I look at them on the Coppermind, no one else has made that connection on there. They have different character pages.
Maybe.
So if you've nailed it, you've nailed it. It could be exciting.
I mean, we'll have to go through again, but I am 95% sure that it's the same person. He doesn't really do it. He just says like, "Hey, conflict is bad, and I want to try and stop what's going on." But then later it mentions, "Oh, El became fused and all that kind of stuff." So I think Elodie is El. I could be wrong. But
it's a good theory. There's a great quote from L that was just on the Coppermine page I was looking at, but where is it? I'll pull it back up because it was actually quite good.
I've got more thoughts about L for later in the book, but
my kind wear thin like shoes walked upon for too many miles. That's a good line.
Like butter spread over too much bread.
Where's that from? Is that
what, my line or the line you just read?
Yours. That's from
this Lord of the Rings. Bilbo talking to Gandalf.
The reason I recognize that is because people reference it all the time, but I'm terrible because I've only watched the Lord of the Rings movies once, and I'm not a huge fan.
That's safe. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, as they say.
And now you're gonna get a DMCA takedown from the brothers.
What, Mario and Luigi?
You don't want a DMCA takedown from Luigi.
That kind of takedown.
That is a permanent takedown.
So, yeah, the next chapter, we have a Sigil point of view.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is great. I feel like
which chapter is this? 56?
56.
Okay.
56, yeah. So I feel like I didn't love, weirdly, right? I had zero connection to Sigil pre-Sunlit Man. Like, I didn't, when they said who he was in Sunlit Man, I was like, that guy? And then...
the Arrested Development and...
yeah. And then after reading Sunlit Man, as I've made clear on the channel before, I wasn't a huge fan of that book. And then we move into Wind and Truth, and you start to see all the stuff line up for Sunlit Man, and I'm like, oh, I care about Sigil now. And I don't know why. I did not care about Sigil before.
I mean, you get you get more of him as a character, and to see him, because he's just like the numbers guy, right? He's there, he's supporting Kaladin. We get a little bit of him in Rhythm of War, and he's doing experiments. He's like, oh, hey Cal, how much Stormlight does it take for you to do a lashing? How long can you hold yourself up on a wall? Blah blah blah. And so he's been around, he's been part of the crew, but he's been trusted, and he's like the one who can read and all that stuff. But seeing him really come into his own in this book, and him struggling with that and like gaining the confidence is a really good arc for him.
He's not got much page time, but I feel like Sigil and Adolin whatever, are the most interesting characters to me in this book.
Interesting.
I mean, Zeth as well. But it's interesting because now we're obviously, when we were talking about this previously, we were like 1 to 2 weeks away from finishing the books, and now we're over a month, well, almost 2 months from having read the book. It's really interesting to see a lot of the reviews coming out, which I assume you've not really paid much attention to because you're not.
I'm seeing the Reddit discourse. I'm just seeing the topics. I'm like, go away. I think all these people who are hating on this book are wrong. Criticism is fine. I can understand why people might not love it, but I think there is this over correction towards it, especially within the community. I don't know why. I think this book rips. I still think it rips. There's a lot of great stuff in here. Would I love it if another book was coming sooner than 8 years from now? Yes. But I'm fine with letting it breathe. I'm fine with kind of where it leaves off. I think it makes for a lot of exciting, what's going to happen? I bet Mistborn Era 3 is going to have a ton of great little teasers. It's going to be good. But yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
It's been really interesting to see. So, I've been watching a few of the major booktubers who have all actually had a pretty negative response. Most of them have. I say most of them. I've watched about 4 or 5 reviews.
I'm so angry about these reviews that I have not watched.
I've watched 4 or 5, and one person gave it 1.5 out of 5. which I thought was genuinely shocking. And they said they would have DNF'd the book, and it didn't. Did not
guess
work for them
what?
at all.
I'll give that person's review a 1 star, a 0.5 star. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
And
review scores are worthless and stupid.
So I give this book a. I should pull that exact quote and just start playing it in videos.
Yeah,
but
please do. You have my permission.
I really liked a lot of the criticism in people's reviews, and it's really interesting because it's very much like, well, okay, I just didn't see it that way, or didn't read it that way, and I think that one of the big things for me, obviously, was that I basically binge read it, and I had a great time binge reading it. I was like, you and I were messaging back and forth constantly, like, oh, I'm here, I'm loving this, and it was such a fast, fun, frantic read, and all the storylines I felt really worked. It's really interesting to see the complaints that people have, and there's obviously some people a lot of people's big complaints were the thing that we talked about, where like people were complaining about modern language, and it's like, well, Sanderson's already specifically said he writes these with modern language. So like you could not, I guess there's people are like,
I could understand if there's like a turn of phrase. Yeah, if there's like a turn of phrase or something. But yeah, like Kaladin and like the therapist thing, like Hoyd was just like, you're a therapist. And like, so he just like inserted that word into the vocabulary, right? There is, Sanderson can have the like, oh, did that just happen? The Marvel kind of quippy, overly quippy, but also that stuff's been in Mistborn and like especially Era 2, like Wayne as a character. That I felt I felt that way about Wayne as a character. Still, I enjoyed a lot of his stuff, and then Hoyd as a character, especially as Wit in Stormlight, has that issue. Like, people love his thing in Rhythm of War, where he's the duel that he does, or that Yasna does, and then he like does all the insults and stuff. That stuff's a little cringe to me. Like, like, oh, cancerous anal. Nobody talks like that. Come on, nobody. Not even witty people. And so the idea that like he's this supremely witty being and so much funnier than everyone else and more thought out when he says stuff like that, I'm like, really? That's that? So yeah, like, there is, criticized stuff, but I think people are overblowing the criticism.
It's very interesting to see a lot of reaction to it. So I mean, like, because when we first started, only a couple of people had like finished and posted and done reviews, and most of those reviews were quite positive. But then over time, the negative ones have trickled out, which I genuinely found interesting to watch.
Was that 1.5 star review the person who hadn't read any of the other books?
No, they had read all the books.
Okay. Anyway, this is a discussion for like afterwards.
Fan.
This is a discussion for after we finish the series, because we're running out of time, right?
Yeah, you're right. What about the
but okay, so there was this bit. Wait, hold on. There was this bit in the Sigsel chapter that is also goes hand in hand with the Adolin chapter. So it's funny that you think they were like the two most interesting characters in this book. They're both in these hopeless kind of situations and dealing with like, we need reinforcements. We're just, we're in the siege position, kind of in opposite. They're in like the opposite inverted position, right? They're trying to keep everybody, Sigzel's trying to keep everyone out from their spot, out of their oath gate. And then Adolin is trying to keep all of the Parshendi forces in the oath gate, which is, I didn't think about that until this second. That's a fun little inversion there. But Leighton asks, like, why did Dalinar send like half or more of our Windrunners to carry a bunch of to send the Mink and Herdasians back to Herdaz, like when we have this battle? And it's like, Sigzel says he was keeping an oath, and there's this thing that keeps coming up throughout this book about keeping an oath, even when it's stupid, even when it's against your best interest, when it's against everybody's best interest, keeping that oath. So that was interesting. And comes up. It's another theme of this book. One of many is what does it mean to keep an oath or like make a promise and keep that, and so yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Zeth stuff. We get him left alone for many years, or a few years at least, and then the voice finally comes back to him when he gets in some trouble. But then I think this is this where they find out, the other like honor bearers find out he's been hearing the voice, and that like completely reconceptualizes or like recenters everyone's like thoughts. Like, wait, no, okay, we need to send him on a pilgrimage and like to train because he's hearing the voice. So that's important. And that's when Zeth finds out he's not the only one hearing the voice. I believe that's these chapters.
Yeah, which one to follow is the name of the chapter. And yeah, because Ishar, which one to follow is the name of the chapter, and the so that's him choosing who to follow, isn't it? Like, do I follow the voice? Do I follow so and so? Yeah, really. I like a lot of the. I really like the relationship that Zeth and his father have, and the other honor bearers. Really interesting, like conceptually, that just all these honor blades have just, because obviously they were all left behind because they didn't, because the heralds were like, we're not going to be heralds anymore, we're going to leave the honor blades behind. It's quite funny that like the Shin were just like, well, we'll pick them up.
That's I can't remember if there was somebody told them to do that, or I forget, but
there was a bit of an interesting thing with like, we've been thinking for the whole series, where are the other honor blades? Like, that had been a big question.
It would also come up a few times, like, oh, they're in Shinovar, like they have them, because Zeth mentions like, oh yeah, I trained with all of them, and but then some of them go missing, and like Talon's honor blade, like where the hell did Talon's honor blade go? And but it's mentioned in like Jezreel's honor blade, or which Zeth has and then gets stolen, and yeah, so that stuff has been known, kind of, but yeah, they're around nobody knew about them, right, except the Shin. So
and
so this is not the chapter where that happens, but it is the chapter where they start sending Zeth out to like actually be involved in like defense and raids and stuff, and he has another, I think with Posen or with one of the honor bearers, he asks him again, how do you know what's right? How do you do what's right? And, continuing that little bit right there, another theme.
Yeah, there's a big thing, obviously, with Zeth in this book is trying to work out who to follow, which is interesting. That that's what this chapter is called, and it's kind of the start of that process for him. Well, no, I guess it's been ever since he killed the guy with the rock.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, though, he was asking, because it was when the rock was there, and he was like, "Oh, is this my family doesn't want us to like do what we're supposed to do, and like if I do what we're supposed to do, then we might have to move, and it might disrupt my whole family's life." And he's asking people then, like, how do I know what's right? And because what he thinks is right, he thought like, oh, I just follow the rules. Right.
Yeah.
And that's right. And everything works, and we'll all be happy because we do what's right. And those are the rules. And then he finds out, oh, but sometimes doing what's right means people aren't happy, or following the rules means people aren't happy. And how do you determine that's right? And whatever. Yeah. It's very interesting there.
And obviously the parallel with Nail, who has gone kind of mad and is like, the only way I can deal with anything is to follow the law, no matter, you know. And I mean, that doesn't really come up here. It comes up later, but yeah, I do really like the Zeth flashback chapters. I think the further away I get from them, the more I'm like, this is really interesting because it's a new type of style of society that we haven't really seen before. And it's also a lot of really interesting characters that we haven't seen before. Like, I think Seth's father is a great character, I mean, like, minor but a very interesting character, and like his devotion to Zeth,
Yeah.
I really liked.
It's like, not going to let my son go through this alone. The whole family, like, we're going together.
Yeah.
Even though, the mother, I don't think we've actually gotten there, but maybe that's later in this day. But yeah, like, even though it tears their family apart, like, they stick together, as long as they can.
I think that's in this chapter, isn't it?
No, not quite. I think that's later. I think that's later in this day, in this set of flashbacks, perhaps. I should have read through the recap. It's because it's been so long, but got things to do.
Got more Stormlight books to reread. So yeah, interesting. I really like these flashbacks. I think that's one of the big things that I think everyone has. I don't think anyone has said they didn't like these flashbacks, which is funny, seeing as they are a bigger part of the book than I feel like they have been for a while in the series. Obviously, like Way of Kings, the flashbacks are too long, and I've said this many times that I think that there's too much of them, and they don't add enough to the series to warrant it. But then you get into Words of Radiance, where the flashbacks are quite minimal but impactful, and then we have similar in Oathbringer, minimal but impactful.
You just don't like reading about Cal being depressed.
But he's not depressed when he's a child.
Yes, he is.
I don't know.
He is very clearly depressed. He lays up on the roof of their house in the rain, sad.
That's just a guy who likes rain.
He is depressed as a child, and
yeah. And then I've talked before that I really enjoyed the Venli flashbacks as well. I felt like the flashbacks have gotten better every single book. The Venli ones are quite big, but I think that these Zeth ones are longer again. They're not. I don't think there's still as much as Way of Kings, but I feel like
there's a lot more mystery in these than there is like in Way of Kings, right? Like, it's just, Cal being a kid, like, okay, how did he get here? But there's a lot of, okay, what is going on with Zeth? There is something weird happened. There's a lot of mystery around Shinovar, and seeing that unfold is a lot of fun. So,
and also interesting that Zeth is a lot older than I thought from these.
I mean,
flashbacks.
he's like in his 40s.
Yeah, and I thought that he was like late 20s, early 30s. I thought he was like a what's the term? Contemporary of the rest of the cast.
I mean, the cast is all sorts of ages, but yeah, he is. He is. You've got people who are thousands of years old, and you've got people who are in their 60s and their teens and their 20s. And
is Renara meant to be a teenager? I thought he was like early
I think
20s.
He's late teens.
Oh, really?
Late teens, early 20s. Shalon is like 17, 18, 19 now. So yeah, I mean, like, Cal is like 21. Adolin is like 24-ish, maybe a little older. But
isn't it?
Shalon in Way of Kings,
as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the year is longer, or the year is shorter, but days are longer, and it's but so yeah, the in Earth years, Shalon's like 20 maybe, or something, or like 19, but yeah, so like, there's Lift is like a preteen into teenager. Yanagon is a teenager. They're people of all ages. So we get some moving on. We get some stuff about the heralds, more flashback stuff. We hear that the heralds were aligned with Odium in the war, on Ashen, and against like not all of them. Nail's family and people were enemies in that war. That Jezrien was on the side of Odium in that war, which is interesting. Maybe we'll in the back half of the series, maybe we'll get something about that.
Yeah, we haven't really covered Makabaki stuff, have we? Isn't I feel like the king of Nail's country was called Makabak or something, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where the name Makabaki comes from.
Yeah, I mean,
which I thought was quite funny.
That's how kingdoms work, right? They're called after like a thing or a person or whatever.
I just thought
they
that
get
was
named.
quite funny.
A place gets named after a person. It makes sense. But that is like a fun little world building thing. Like, oh, this is named. Nobody knows this because nobody, but it's.
And that's actually revealed in this chapter that the king's name is Makabak. So timely for me.
Yeah. Let's see what else is going on here. We get the wind. Then we found our own champion, blessed by the storm, a champion for the wind itself. I guess speaking to Navani. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Yeah, so the wind speaking to Navani in that part. I forgot about that. But yeah, basically saying, hey, we've got our dude. And it could be Kaladin, it could be Zeth. Maybe more Kaladin because of Syl, probably. That makes more sense than Zeth in that, but they both kind of have similar. They like flying. They like the freedom of the sky. They've both fought and not died in the storm. Land of Fallen Stars, which the Chasm Fiends call the place the Land of Fallen Stars. It's like, okay, does that have something to do with Honor's death? Which is the Shattered Plains, which has long been theorized as the place that Honor died, and like what killed Honor being what shattered the plains. Let's see. I'm just trying to move us through a little bit quicker because we've been going at it.
Yeah, it's been a long road. Where are we moving into? So the next one is another flashback chapter, 18 years ago. So Zeth has been training for 5 years.
What chapter is that? Whatever it takes.
59, whatever it takes. Disappointing.
This is the one with the boats. This is the boat one.
That's a good chapter. It's quite a short one. This one, from memory. I only have the Kindle copy in front of me and the Coppermind.
It's 15 pages ish, or on my iPad. This is the one where the raiders come in, and Zeth has like a covert ops crew that gets captured on purpose and ends up on the boat, and they fight them off. And the voice. So this is the lead up to the voice being revealed to everybody. The voice tells him, like, say this, say you are of the Storm Riders, that you'd heard of their raids on this land and you would finally brought your immortals to stop them. Because, there are all sorts of interesting stuff going on. I was wondering, like, is this an Aether? Because we've seen Aethers in Tress, and as we're trying to figure out, like, what is this voice? Who is speaking to Zeth? Is there on this planet doing something like Aether of Night, Aether of the Wind, Aether of Stone? I don't, what is going on? But yeah, no, that this is a very cool chapter, and Zeth gets lined up to be punished for his actions, for endangering people and going against orders and fighting back instead of just.
And then he's like, "No, this is why."
Raid and yeah.
And then that's when, like you say, the other honor bearers are like, "Oh, actually, this guy seems like he should be an honor bearer." He's
couple
on the
chapters
road.
off still, but yeah, it's
oh right. Of course, yeah.
But
That's
this
the
is the
next.
setup. Yes, this is the setup
Yeah.
where then he gets into the trouble, and then they're like deciding what to do.
Yeah, really disappointing that Sanderson ripped off Avengers Endgame with the whatever it takes. Really sad. I'm joking, everyone. I hope you all know. Next up is an Adolin chapter, obviously top tier because he's the MVP of this book, which is lucky for you as he's your favorite character.
This one introduces a new character, Aquil. We're getting a lot of women involved in Adolin's story, and or maybe not Aquil. Who there is a
Aquil is just she's the one that's Mulan, right?
Yeah, exactly. My note here is let's get down to business to defeat the fused. What I wrote in my memo.
And which character starting with Z tells you this story? Is it Zarbra? Is it Zarb? Is it
yeah,
Zubra?
right? Exactly.
Zebra? This is Sanderson getting his writing tips from Robert Jordan, who has two major characters called Elaine and Egwene.
I mean, you know, in world they're gonna have naming conventions and like typical names. I had 3 kids in my elementary school class named Cody. Like, you know,
that's just Portland for you.
There's just 20 kids, and this was out in the countryside. 3 different Codys. Like, what? I don't think I've met a single Cody since I left that school.
I was gonna say, not many in Japan, probably.
No, or in America, it seems. I don't know. They all went extinct. I don't know what happened.
I've never met a single Cody.
Agent Cody Banks, right?
Oh yeah, that one, obviously.
So yeah, we get another, like, okay, someone is getting set up to have like the dramatic moment. Adolin's like, you're not fit to be like a soldier on the front lines. I'm going to send you over with my lead scribe, and she's going to teach you how to be an archer. You know, you're going to get your chance, but you have to go and you have to learn how to do something that you can actually be valuable doing.
And I really like we've talked about this before, but I really like May Aladar. I think she's really great. Like, this book is full of fantastic small roles. Where like,
it's a shame that it took until this book for those people to pop up and show up.
Because I feel like we don't have a lot of small roles in previous books, but because the cast is so separated, you're kind of, Sanderson is forced to give people like Adolin, who have no supporting cast around him from the major cast and crew. He's forced to create, you know, your May Aladars, your Zabra, your Zarbs, and also to give us, you know, to flesh out. I can't remember his name now. The Azish Emperor, Yanagon, to like flesh out Yanagon, which I really liked. And of course, we also have more Venli in this chapter. Classic Venli stuff.
As they fight about, should we go to the center of the plains, like, you know, that like the stones are telling us, or you know, that is an interesting conflict within the listeners. And like, do we go? Do we stay out of everything?
Because they survived by staying out of everything, but will they survive by continuing?
Can they afford? Yeah, can they afford to stay out any longer? And
it's a lot about sitting on the sidelines when everything's going to shit, which feels pertinent for American society currently.
Let's see. The next chapter, we get some Yasna.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I was going to say, I have always found Yasna's icon for her chapters to be quite interesting. The like mountain or the man, or
no, that's the Shadesmar. That's the black sun, like on the horizon in Shadesmar.
So yeah, I've never known what that was, and I've always thought that it was a really cool design. I also always thought it was a mountain, just FYI.
Okay.
Please carry on.
Yeah. So Yasna leading the defense of Thalen City, call back to Oathbringer. Interesting little detail. Yasna thinks to herself, it's been like over a year since I was here and defending the city in Oathbringer, and she revealed herself as a Knight Radiant of the 4th ideal, though she had still not found the 5th. She hid her armor for all of Oathbringer. Or, she's, for that whole fight, she's like, I don't need the armor. I'm not worried about it. I guess it would be there if she ended up needing it, but
she's too badass.
We stan a queen.
Yeah, she is genuinely one of the best characters in this series. Always been a big fan of hers. Yeah. Even in book 1, I felt like her. She was one of the more complex characters.
Oh yeah,
and it's been interesting to see POV chapters from her to see how insecure she is about many things in her life. Obviously, I think we've said before that she's intended to be written as autistic.
So some sort of neurodivergence.
As neurodivergence.
They kind of she's asexual, and that plays into a relationship with Hoyd. That's something happened to her in her past, a traumatic event where she was like locked away, and there's a lot of stuff going on with Yasna that we'll probably find out about in her book in the second half. She is one of the flashback characters. But yeah, her story in this is very interesting, which we'll get to later. Another thing that happens in this, we get back to Sigil and we see the storm, the high storm, come and hang out or start to come towards Shattered Plains. And the Everstorm is also arriving and hanging out with the Fused, or in the forces, the Odium's forces, and the High Storm gets shut down by the Everstorm. Like they meet again, like they do in Words of Radiance, but instead of this giant cataclysmic battle between the storms, destruction. The High Storm is just snuffed out, and they don't get any. They don't get it. They're hoping for like, okay, we're going to renew our spheres. We're going to renew our resources. They get nothing. I believe is what happens. And it was like two kings met and one was forced to bow, as someone says. And
really
put here: is there an Everstorm father? Is there a spren of the Everstorm?
It feels like there's something going on there. I wonder if that's.
I mean, it could be just Odium.
Yeah,
because the Stormfather wasn't really the Stormfather until after the events. We hear that like they were very different before the death of Honor and after the death of Honor. So, we got weird spren. Oh yeah, everyone keeps thinking Gavinor is a spren in the visions. Like he just shows up as a spren because doesn't know what to do about a baby. Why is there a baby here? Thick wind, turgid wind.
well done, Brandon. That's some good turn of phrase. Big fan.
Yeah, we get. We get some interesting stuff. But
I like
trying to think.
I like Ivory as a spren quite a lot.
No.
I think of my again, really interesting spren characters. I want to see more of Yasna and Ivory, and obviously we'll get that in book 10. But exciting. It's cool that her flashback book is the final book, because obviously she's been getting more and more and more important. And it's interesting as well, because if you think back to Way of Kings, she was probably the most important character to the plot that doesn't have a POV. And obviously she's the first Knight Radiant to have returned, ostensibly, or one of, first to bond a spren, and the first to kind of realize that shit is happening and is going down.
Still on predates her.
Oh, yeah.
But We don't get, I guess we don't get confirmation of that until later, but we do get some weird hints in like Rhythm of War and even like Words of not much in Words of Radiance, but yeah, we get some hints about that stuff before. But yeah. No, I guess, what is a Knight Radiant and what makes a Radiant versus someone who was bonded to Spren and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's see. This, when we get to chapter 62.
That's another flashback. No,
yes.
it's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
sorry.
This, I think, is, yes, when the storm comes, they're in like the forest in like a camp or whatever, and the storm comes and everyone's just like, oh, the rain, so beautiful and nice, and it's not destructive. I guess they pray, and like the storm actually is like, okay, yeah, I'll be chill. I'll just like give you some rain. This is actually like a really great flashback. This is the part where Jezreel mentions El is dead. And I'm not sure if I don't remember when I had like, oh, I should go back and check that other flashback for that singer, but yeah. This was like, oh, okay, El was around like this early. Like El like actually knew them, and like it was like notable that he killed El. Because he seems really regretful about what happened.
Yeah, and you say, he's mentioned that he murdered him.
Yeah, and like El talks like, oh, sorry, old friend, or like, I won't let them do this. I won't let them like keep you like this, old friend. And then he like destroys the stone Jezreel is in, even though Jezreel is well and dead at that point. But like there isn't, that's not like him being psychotic and like mentally broken, mind broken by his eons of torture and like, mind melting from being too old. They were friends, actually friends. They were close. So that's why I think Elodie is El.
It makes a lot of sense looking at it from this point of view, if that makes sense. Looking at it from here, where we are in the book, being like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't think that I had thought about it by looking back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. This is the section this is not the chapter where it happens, but this is when they made the Oath Pack flashback, right? Oh yeah. But then, so yeah, there's, they're setting up the Shallan and Brelaine and Renara and like setting up and those figures, looking for the ghost bloods and all that kind of stuff. They're setting up like, oh, we got to go talk to. I don't think they get that far, but yeah, that I like that. This whole flashback. Next chapter 63, we get the introduction of the character I want to see the most of and want to see much more of going forward. Dammy, the storm wall, who is a stone ward, and is just like Hulkbuster armor to like land in there, shield, so cool. I want more Dammy. They seem real sick.
Definitely.
It made me feel real good in the Words of Radiance Kickstarter. I went with the Stone Ward set. Yeah, so I've got.
So they're Azish, right? Did I remember that right?
Riren. So Riri. So blonde,
yes,
probably.
Riri.
Like I think is what's from the islands, right? From the northern, lives on the Great Shells.
Like Risen. Not Risen. The people Risen.
She's Reshi. No, she's not Reshi. No, sorry. Reshi is on the islands. Riren is like near, like where all the Eerie live, like northwestern Alethkar, not Alethkar, Roshar, northwestern Roshar, near Shinovar, but on the other side of the mountains, I believe. We don't get a lot of them in the books, so Yeah, I just wrote when Dammy shows up. Finally, a fifth man dropped, the one they called the Storm Wall. Hell yeah!
I mean, it's a great nickname. It's
Yeah,
an absolute banger of a nickname. You can't go
any
wrong.
like if you the Storm Blessed, Storm Wall, like give me all the storms. So yeah, he's Sigil hadn't been with him in Emul when he'd set his fourth ideal, but it had reportedly been spectacular. The Stormwall didn't summon a shard blade, but an imposing tower shield spiked and as tall as he was. He slammed it to the ground in front of him and then shoved a magnified out of the way while hitting another with a fist that crushed its face. Colorful ribbons tied around his wrists and extending out through the plate. So he's kind of fighting like Basher in Warbreaker.
Yeah.
Because like they can manipulate the axii, the atoms, and like make things rigid and stiff and manipulate, things like stone. Well, beautiful. Sanderson, you've done it again. Let's see.
Sorry, I was just having to quickly reply to a message from
deep in work hours, yes?
Yeah. So
you can't tell anybody that you at your work that you're a booktuber, huh?
No. Out probably. Next one up, we've got
we get more Adolin stuff, and I'm screaming about Hamask again. He's a baddie. He's absolutely set up to like stab Adolin in the back. And
Hamask was really interesting because I feel like we needed you get the reveal later, don't you? You get the details.
Yeah, you get the backstory.
But I like that he's just this like mysterious dude who doesn't say anything.
Well, we get Adolin once again getting his moment where the fused the fused and the Parshendi are taking down the other shard bearer. Like they make everyone think like, oh, we're going to do this, but they actually they faint, and then they take down the other shard bearer, and Adolin's like, I got to go through because I got to save him. We can't lose that shard plate. And Adolin busts through like the entire enemy fortification on his own, and then gets through and comes up behind and takes down, saves all the people, and then looks behind, and Hamask is there. Apparently followed him through the fire and the flames. Adolin's like, my guy, what did you do? And I'm like, he's doing that. I'm like, okay, come on, he's got to be this is not like, this guy ain't real. He's a baddie. This is all set up. He's got to be there to gain his trust, and then he's got to backstab him.
I really like that this. If you look at the Copper Mine, this chapter has so many characters mentioned or actively in. Does this one have the Navani? No, I'm thinking of a different chapter. Navani is in this, but I'm thinking of something else.
No.
This is a good one because this one's got like all the banger points of views. We've got all the Colins and Sigil.
There's a lot of, and like, you're getting Relaine and Renarin, and there's a lot going on. We get them discussing to get more of the flashback. Let's see.
Andre's consulting his extremely extensive notes,
I've got a lot of notes,
but also trying to cut down this podcast discussion from being 3 hours, which we absolutely could go into, I think.
Oh yeah, and not even talk about anything.
This is one of the shortest things in the book. We won't take that long. An hour and 12 minutes later.
Why Navani? Why is Formless here? What happened to? Oh. Wait, okay, so we get the whole, they create the Oath Pact?
Yeah.
I think, or is something else going on? What is going on here?
This chapter has.
Okay, yes. So they make
it.
the oath, but they make the oath pact.
Hmm.
There, did I not? Maybe not yet. No. Okay, they're okay. We're gonna do it, but we need somebody, and then they realize like, oh, something weird here. Honor is not honor. Honor in this case is actually Murray's. And there's a whole thing. Murray's tries to, or there's
That's
stuff about
chapter, isn't it?
maybe maybe there's a chapter break, but there's a whole thing with Formless, and Formless saying you cannot build, and anything you pretend to create is just an illusion. More of the people who build, people who subtract discussion that has come up before.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what was going on. What is this section?
I think that there was something I was trying to remember, which is lost it. Abadai the Monarch.
Skibbity the Monarch.
He's actually a punk. He's like not a very good villain. I feel like he just
his name's Skibbity. Like, what do you want? Like, yeah. He got injured, right? And so he doesn't have any powers, and so he's like, well, I can die and then slowly come back and then miss out on killing Adel and Colin, like the greatest swordsman on the world. No. In the midst of this battle between Mraize and Shallan and everything that's going on there, we get Dalinar's point of view, and Dalinar just went through and swore, as one of the heralds, swore into the oath pact. And he's thinking to himself, I didn't actually just do that, did I? Like, not for real. But an oath was the most powerful thing he knew, and without oaths, he wouldn't even be worth his name. He had made mistakes, had killed people he loved, but he would never break an oath. And there it is again. The keeping an oath, even when it's stupid. What is the value of an oath? And
it's obviously
like never break an oath
as well, isn't it? That he
has
to.
Yeah. He will unite instead of conquer, and and that's the honor thing. The Stormfather is like, oaths, you gotta oath. So yeah, that's been the whole thing. And the thing with Adolin too is him like, I don't like the oath thing. Doesn't make sense. But they're off looking for Talon, and oh my god, I loved this bit where they find Talon just like doing like shepherd type stuff, or like shoveling hay or whatever it is he's doing, and Talon has no patience for these people. He's just a dude. He's just like a young dude. I'm not sure.
He's a stable hand, right? That's
yeah. And like, I am so looking forward to getting more about him in future books and figuring out like what is his deal. His soul is warped, Jezrien said, from his attempt to kill cultivation. What? What? Stable hand trying to kill like, he was born on Roshar, presumably doesn't have access to any sort of surge binding at this point. He's trying to kill a god. What? How was he even a threat? That's bananas. And then Honor being like, you know what he did. He tried to kill my wife. Not his wife, but you know what I mean. I can imagine quite a lot. Oh, I offer powers unimaginable, Tanavas said. I can imagine quite a lot, Town said. And some of it is downright terrible. I think I will pass. He's so good.
Yeah, he is like a surprise MVP of these flashbacks. But then also, I think it's quite interesting that
so little of him, which is a shame. But he is the flashback character for the second half.
Yeah, and I do really like that. He's very interesting, and that it's kind of teasing us towards that second half. But on the, I do also like that most of the heralds are shitbags.
Oh yeah,
I just like that they're kind of shitty.
Yeah. They're just, they had a lot of power. They're royals or like noble people who had a lot of power, political and supernatural. And then really great quote here: "I will hold back the darkness, not for honor, but I'll do it." So like that's also thinking about it now, like also against like the oath for the sake of an oath. It's no, I'm not doing it because I'm like, it's not for anything in particular. I'm like, I'm going to do this because it's right. It's what I think is right. Not because I have promised to do it, really. I don't know. There's probably a better way to say that, or what I'm thinking, but I think that also ties into the oath theme. Like he swears the oath, but the oath isn't what's important there.
Yeah.
All right, Shallan. Vale thought, "You can see her now. You can survive this. You've grown to where you can." This is where we get the start to get the confirmation of Shanarak being Shallan's mother.
And I remember, yeah, it's one of those things that's been, like you say, that Sanderson weaves so many clues in that he expects people to get the big reveals. I don't think I would have got this, but also, I'm not one of those. I'm not a Cosmere obsessive. I don't tend to think about the books that much outside of reading and enjoying them. But yeah, this was mildly spoiled for me because I watched a video. Like I say, spoiled for me. I watched a video before. Watched a video before Wind and Truth came out that was like the theories we have for Wind and Truth, and basically everyone just spouted all the big Reddit theories.
That's where people talk about the books.
Yeah, but like that wasn't their theory; it was the Reddit theories that they had gone like, "There, that makes sense." Anyway,
sure, but people are just okay. Here are the things. Here's the recap. If you don't want to go read through all of Reddit to find out, but I
watched a few of those, and that. So when I was seeing all these clues coming together, I was like, okay, that makes sense. It's not bad to,
sure,
but I like the way that Sanderson teased out the reveal because I feel like he is looking at this and going, everybody already knows that this is the case. It just hasn't been confirmed.
There isn't. It takes long enough, and there is like they are looking in, they are seeing things, they are doing things, people are around, and it takes long enough for Shallan for that to be acknowledged that you could be like, oh, okay, maybe that's nothing. She's like not. There's been no acknowledgement, but then finally it's like, hey, you can stop putting up this barrier. You can handle her presence, and like, okay, you can realize what's happened. But yeah, that was, I think it was a good like swerve on that to like make it take this far into the book. It's halfway into the book that you finally get that reveal, even though she's crossed paths a few times so far before that. Then you get little like hints of like her kind of blanking out at times, but yeah, we're approaching the end of this section. Just a few more chapters here.
So that one was not for honor, wasn't it? That 65.
Yes.
So our next one is a present day Zeth and Kaladin update.
So the interesting epigraph on this one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Be content to play with your toys on their world of storms, or do I have to broadcast what I have learned of your goals? I certainly do not think it is a coincidence that you have made a special study of the worlds where legends abound of the dead being raised. Okay. So Wit wants to bring back someone he loved.
Yeah, or
Hoyd wants to bring back some. Also, I believe Hoyd mentions that Hoyd is actually the name of someone else. And
interesting. I didn't know that.
Hoyd is someone else's name that he cared for, I believe. Is Hoyd trying to bring back the real Hoyd? Is Cephandrius trying to bring back Hoyd? Like,
my theory was that he's trying to bring back the dead members of the original crew. So the ones that, because they all became shards, didn't they?
Oh, sure.
The Dragonsteel crew all became shards.
Yeah, but he doesn't like a lot of them.
But maybe the ones that are dead he liked.
Maybe, I don't know.
Or he liked them back in the day. He just doesn't like them because of what they turned
into. Because he always hated race, for example, and like
I mean that makes sense. Seems like
he hated Adi too. But yeah, interesting stuff there, and like Wit has always been clear. Like I've got my own stuff going on. Like I've got I'm here. I'm in it for me. So yeah. But we get Kaladin playing the role of therapist a bit more here. Let's see. Is Nail showed up yet? No, that must be later today. Rule number 1, Kaladin called after him. You're not a thing, you're a person. Rule number 2, you get to choose. And there's a third rule, Zeth. You deserve to be happy. Which are kind of somewhat things he's been telling himself or like had to learn. At least 2 and 3. Rule number 1, I don't think he had to learn like the you're a person stuff, but like these are all things Zeth needs to hear, and Kaladin trying to like figure out how do I connect with him. And it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back at times, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like Zeth was like, no, I don't deserve to live. I did terrible things, so I deserve to die. I don't deserve to be happy, etc. And I'm right in here. Is there anything Zeth can do that can be restitution for the things he did, like all the murder he caused and committed?
Has he subtracted too much?
Yeah, like is there any good deed that can undo such a terrible deed? That's an interesting thought experiment. Another book where that comes up, Perdido Street Station. So if you've read it, it leaves you with a big kind of like, whoa, how do I feel about this? I don't know. So that's a little more of an extreme example, but yeah, I think that's an interesting way and thought of like, if
and like how does for example Nail feel about that being
everything he does is by the book, it's the law, so it's all good, right?
Really interesting to see Nail and Zeth as kind of counterpoints to each other, in that like Zeth is like I have to follow the law because I can't trust myself and I can't trust other people, and then Nail being like I follow the law because the law is the one true ideal, but they both are doing it for these different reasons, and like Nail doesn't regret or doesn't say he regrets the things that he's done, but Zeth deeply regrets the things that he's done. Lots of really interesting stuff as them as a counterpoint to each other.
Yes. The truth is there's a balance. You are a product of what life, society, and people have done to you. You bear blame for what you did, but others bear a lot of it too. It's never too late to accept that your past might be an excuse, but might not be an excuse, but it is a valid explanation. So tell me, what do you, Zeth, son to Turo, want for yourself with no influence from anyone else, not even me? What do you want? If I choose this, Zeth whispered, it's as good as admitting that there are no right answers, that no one knows the truth. That terrifies me. Which feels a lot like religious commentary. A lot of like the Zeth stuff and like, kind of this zealotry and okay, go through these religious steps and this pilgrimage and do all these things. And if I admit that, if you go like, okay, there is no God, for example, or, I don't believe in these teachings anymore. What does that mean for all of the things I have believed? I don't have a guiding principle anymore. And so, like, the idea of like, if I don't have that, I don't know what's right. So, maybe it's, Sanderson, of course, is always, as a religious man, of course, there are going to be religious examples in his text. So,
I feel like Sanderson, as we've said previously, is really wrestling with religion across a lot of his books, and like wrestling with his thoughts through his fiction.
I think
because his opinion has very clearly changed on a lot of stuff.
But I don't think his spiritual opinion. I think his social opinions have changed. But his social opinions have changed, but I don't think his spiritual opinions have necessarily changed, which is whatever. But I mean, the social stuff is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
What his spirituality is neither here nor there to me. If you're a good person, and but there are those same people with the same spiritual beliefs who have different social beliefs.
Yeah,
and how do you reconcile that? Like,
and they're real mad about Wind and Truth.
Are they?
Oh, they're real mad about Wind and Truth.
Mormons?
Religious people in general.
Oh, well,
people on the religious right in the US.
They're always mad about Harry Potter. I had a kid in my second grade class who got pulled out of school because our teacher was reading Harry Potter to the class. So, a boy who was never allowed to grow up and who had somehow maintained a fragile child's view of morality. Yeah, but he's not allowed to grow up, so he's not, like, he hasn't had to ever really think about the view because he's always been thinking, okay, they'll tell me what's right to do, and no one's ever like made him make the hard decisions. He just got like, okay, you made a mistake, off to the monastery for you.
And are we now on the final chapter? Have we done it?
I think we got a few more. This is where Nail shows up. It's just like, hey, I'm here I got to stop whatever this Kaladin boy's doing. This is not good. This is not the law. Which is very interesting.
Yeah. I've got a lot of time for Nail as probably the most interesting herald. Like, obviously, I like Town, and I like the contrast that he is to the other heralds.
We see Nail the most. See Nail the most.
And like his ideas and like Skybreaker stuff and how they wear local law uniforms and stuff, I really like.
67, another Adolin chapter. I don't have a whimsical bone in my body. May eyed him, then kept writing. What? He said. I thought you were more self-aware than that, she said. Adolin is so whimsical. It is, just some good good quotes here. And then my comforting reassurance. Right? Oh, Nodum showed up. I think Nodum led him through, like, the Hamask part. Nodum led him through the, like, hey, you need to go over here, and like led him to. He's been doing some scout work. I thought
he's really
someone was gonna bond. I'm like, okay, Nodum showed up. Someone's going to bond Nodum, and like a last, like, okay, got to save everybody kind of moment, which would have been cool. But we'll find out. That was absolutely was okay. We have a free sprint here. He doesn't want to bond somebody, but he's going to make that choice. Like, okay, I gotta save somebody. The right thing to do. And Sigzil, I didn't make a note when let's see. I'm trying to find what's
this
going on
here. This is the chapter where Moash turns up.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So the Else Gate opens and they're like, oh no, a lot more reinforcements showed up, and Moash shows up. Yes. Yes. Another flashback. This is the one where where the voice makes itself known, I believe.
Yeah.
They're like, everything's gonna be okay. Yes. So the voice shows up at the trial and saves. Everyone's like, oh wait, the voice. And Seth's like, the voice? You will know about the voice? Which is like makes him go, oh, I'm not insane. So and gives him like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. If I follow the voice or whatever, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Interesting.
And that ends us off at chapter 68, right? Unfortunately, one chapter too soon. What I'm going to suggest is let's shift the interludes over to the next day.
Okay.
This time, and we'll start doing interludes then day instead of day then interludes.
Yeah. Our interludes for this day are not super interesting anyway.
Yeah. I think the Zahel one is good, but we will talk about that.
Okay. Next time. We'll talk about it on our next episode. Yeah, we went long on this one. We started getting into the weeds on reception. Yeah, reception. Hey, review scores are bad and they don't matter. Don't let other people's numbers tell you what's good.
But yes, also, I think it's interesting for us to talk about the reviews. And again, I think we'll come back to this, like you say, when we finished discussing the whole book, we'll do a like, how do we feel episode or something.
We can do free for all discussion type, not recap thing. Yeah, we're missing a lot. It's impossible to.
There's
talk
just
about
so
all.
much. Yeah,
it's been 2 months since I read it, right? So, yeah.
Cats. So, yeah, have to let the cat in. Let's end this one out. Ooh,
all right.
Sorry.
I do want to make a shout out to the Dragonsteel store. They're not sponsoring this episode or anything, but my wife ordered me some Cosmere stuff for Christmas, and I got this holiday sweater, and I got a medium because that's the size t-shirt I wear in their stuff. And then the sweater was like too tight and too small, like it raised my arms and my belly button showing, right? That's can't have that. I'm 31 years old. I'm not in my like 70s and like
your belly button era.
Yeah, no. So, and I'm in Japan, so we did the return, and it was shipping was expensive, and it was like there was like New Year's in there, and we're like, okay, are you sending it? And it took like a while, and so then like eBay's like, hey, is the exchange happening? Is anything going on? And I thought it was gonna be like another 2 weeks for it to like finally get shipped and arrive, and then it was here like 4 days later, international shipping, and they just like paid for rush shipping to get it because they're like, oh, this took a while. So thank you, Dragonsteel store. Also, if you're watching this, someone at Dragonsteel, please make Brandon Sanderson a Blue Sky account or like a Dragonsteel Blue Sky account. Get off the fascist website. And then I stopped having to comment on your videos about making Brandon Sanderson Blue Sky account. And then people stopped being weirdly homophobic in the comments of my comment. Like,
that is weird.
I don't care if you think he's shoehorning LGBTQ stuff into his books. This is not new with Wind of Truth. Like, why are you coming to my comment about Blue Sky?
It's more front and center than I think it ever has been because it's a major plot point.
Yeah, but who cares?
However, I also agree.
Just now mad about it, like fake fans.
Absolutely. Speaking
not
of fake
here
fans,
for you.
If you're a fake fan of me, you should subscribe to the channel and become a real fan.
Subscribe.
Please like the video if you liked it. Don't dislike it if you didn't. And drop a comment down below your thoughts and feelings on this video, Day 5, Stormlight Archive. Have a great time. We need to shut this episode down, but we will speak to you soon.
Instant transmission.